Hey everyone, back at it again with another board game review, this time with Megaland. No, not Mega Man, Megaland. Although the board game is based on a video game theme. You ever want a video game in board game form? This isn't it. It just kinda usurps a bunch of common tropes and sticks them together. But that isn't to say it's a bad game. It has a good base and is aimed towards a younger family-oriented crowd. Well, what makes it so? Let's crash course the rules and find out. You got these characters. You got generic hoodie kid. You got aviator girl. You got smiley lizard. You got imitation brand Puss in Boots. And you got old Uncle Jeb on meds. So up to 5 players can play this game, and there's no difference in stats between any of them. They all start off with the same amount of health. Except for old Uncle Jeb on meds. This guy gets plus 10 awesome points in my books for being crazy. Also plus 10 to being arrested because he definitely looked like he's on something. You begin a round by entering the level and begin drawing monster cards. You get one random resource per monster draw, but the longer you stay, the more likely you are to get hurt by monsters. Get hurt enough and you lose all the resources you earned for that level. Backing out will keep your resources, but other players can opt to stay in and maybe earn even more resources, thus gaining an advantage over you. After everyone is out of a level, you take these resources and you can purchase buildings with it. These buildings include funny smelling grass shop, old people's home, the mines of Moria, and the I think that's how it's called. Anyways, each of these buildings have different abilities such as getting a free resource every round, or getting jump tokens to avoid damage from certain enemies. Alternatively, you may also spend your resources to take definitely legal health enhancers to improve your swole health bar. More health is always a good thing. After blowing all your money on pretty poor investments, you are healed up to full and begin a new round and enter the level once more, repeating the cycle until someone earns 20 coins. Once that occurs, we go through one more round, and whoever has the most at the end wins the game. And that's the general gist of Megaland. Aight, let's go over the space. This game is a mid-sized game. It's not too large, but when fully set up, it consumes about half a small dining table size, because of the card layouts. It needs to be accessible to all players, so keep that in mind. But it's still fairly economical for the space. Perfect for those family-sized dining tables. The only time space becomes an issue is when you have players buying something like one of each building, and each of the buildings are low coin earners. But here's one of the real MVP of Megaland. The way how this entire game packs together. There's this nice token holder of amazing quality, sturdy beyond belief with a clear snap-on top to prevent the tokens from falling out. It's even embossed. The insert also has individual slots for all the buildings, so it's neatly organized and easily accessible, and it definitely speeds up the cleaning and setup process. Everything packs together so neatly you think you'll be playing a perfect Tetris game. Everything fits together, everything packs together, and they even have a little note to make sure you don't throw away the foam. It's an OCD person's dream, and the packing is definitely worth a special mention. The length of this game is about 20 minutes, give or take 5 minutes-ish, depending on which buildings are in the game. Available buildings are selected by the players prior to the start of the game, so one might have a coffee shop and another game might not have it. Depending on which buildings are in play, then game lengths vary slightly depending on how fast they earn coins. It's by design. Speaking of designs, the artwork is cartoony. I love this type of artwork. It's zany and crazy and it pops out at you. Everything has a red hue to it, so you may not love that. I'm fairly indifferent, but the artwork is absolutely adorable. Buildings have this blockish new age modern shape to it, and the ones you would find in a Kurzgesagt video or a blocky infograph. They did say this board game is supposed to be a video gamey theme, and to be fair, I did feel it. It's just not what most people think of when they say video game. It's more of a dying genre of video game. It feels like one of those old school online flash games, like the ones where you build a city or some kind of progressive run RPG. You go into a level, fail to reach the end, and upgrade your character or city with the points you've earned. One of those games. Man, I've legit missed those games. Those games are long gone, and with Flash being obsolete and deprecated, those games ain't coming back. You know what? Let's bring back some old memories. Comment below your favorite Flash game if you have any. Alright, doom and gloom aside, let's cheer up. Let's focus on the fun aspect. Who would have fun with Megaland? It's those who are on a time crunch, want a simple game, and are family oriented. It's really a game aimed for families or a younger crowd. It's one of those family game night kind of games. Why would I think this? Because of the simplicity, the lighthearted artwork, and the lack of player interactions. If you want a game with tons of player interactions, this isn't it. It's still a very enjoyable game, but you have to manage your expectations. That isn't to say it's completely devoid of player interaction. In fact, the few opportunities you have to mess with other players is what makes this game super enjoyable. Something about taunting them into staying with one health is really fun. But again, manage your expectations properly. Here's the brutal faults I have with this game. There is very little variety between everything. I really do mean everything. The monster deck is pretty small, and there's no special variations between the monsters. They all kind of do different levels of damage, and that's pretty much it. Imagine how cool or tense a game can be if there was a monster that lets you steal resources from other players that have left the level. Yeah, I know there's the rabbit monsters where you can feed it the carrot resource to avoid damage, but that's what I'm talking about. I want more of those monsters. It will make the monster deck much more engaging. And the buildings. Yes, you have a lot of buildings to choose from. Yes, there's some cool, nifty abilities on them. There's even more in the box that I haven't even shown yet. But there's exactly one building where it interacts with other players, the hospital. And that's only if they fall down. How cool would it be if there was a building like a trading post where you can offer up resources to trade? Or a building where if you lose your last health, you get to hurt someone on the way out, kind of like a last huzzah. And balance is another problem. If you lose a level because of an unlucky draw just once, it becomes significantly harder to win the game. It's because of the resource advantage. You have to play extremely risky to try and catch up with the other players, but they can play it safe. Otherwise, they'd win by a resource advantage. There's not much a player can do outside of risking more and more, but then the other players can just buy extra health and they have a better risk tolerance than you. Yes, the new buildings I proposed earlier may be imbalanced. The monsters may be overpowered. But that can be fixed by saying something like usable only once. Or before a game you select which monsters will be in the deck, like the buildings. Point is, these player interaction buildings and monsters are what gives another player a chance to come back if they're a smart cookie. And in my book, that's always a good game design in a player versus player scenario. And finally, because of the lack of variety between the monsters and buildings, it leads to a stale replay value. After a couple of games, there's no tension. You mapped out the most optimal combination of buildings, and you achieved perfection. Nice. But with kids, the replay value is there, and I can imagine them discovering new combos and shenanigans. But put aside the problems this game has for a moment. Let's take a look at the price. It's only about $18. 18 US dollars. That's a great price for what this game is. But again, manage your expectations. If you want a family game with the kids, this is way better than Monopoly. It's much shorter, and it engages with them through the stay in the level mechanic. But if you are padding out your game collection, think about this for a moment. It's a solid buy, but what else can you do with $18? It's a very enjoyable game, but if you want solid replay value to bring in tons of hours with your gaming group, maybe not this one. Look, this isn't a bad game. The core mechanic is really interesting. I really like the core mechanic. It's engaging, and offers the potential for some amazing player taunts. The artwork is enticing, and the manual is written in such a clear, concise manner that it's basically a Dr. Seuss book. The no cat in the hat classic this is. Flaws come ajar, repetition rises to fruition, and replay is led astray. Yet, there's still good in this game. And if you want a family game and teach your kids the value of risk-taking and risk aversion, then yeah, pick this game up. It's super easy to teach, and engaging, and short. If you want a quick, fun game with your friends, this is definitely worth a look. Think it over. Maybe it's worth your time if it fits in with your group's gaming personality. But again, manage expectations, because it is severely lacking on the variety side. Still, all Megaland needs to become an awesome game is to imitate Mega Man and get just a few upgrades. If this review was entertaining or helpful, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out this channel. Purchasing through the link supports the content, and don't forget to comment below your favorite Flash game. I'm super serious, I'm like in a super crazy nostalgia mode right now. Let's see how far back we can go with Flash games. And don't forget to be awesome, everyone. Laters. Mega Man is a bit bland but pretty grand, so don't let this game be canned, cause sometimes it be slamming, Dan.